because people want to be seen, people want to be recognized and understood. So if you have a mechanism to present them the problem in a way that they feel heard, understood, they will forever be grateful to you.
Vic Moya, it is amazing to see you, as
Same.
always. We've been meeting up all over the world.
Right.
I mean, what are the odds of that happening? Estonia, Spain, Colombia. Where else? There are a few other places.
Yeah.
I
I
think.
don't know if we met in Ecuador. No, you were leaving by the time I was arriving, and then Peru was the same story. Yeah, but we've been all over the place.
But funnily, you went to Ecuador and
Yes.
you met Holly, who I just did an interview with last week. And I just love how this world's so huge, and yet we can still find these pockets and meet these people and connections. And you're like, wow.
It is. And it gives me so much joy when I know that people that I love get to know each other. You know, like Steve, a person I love, Holly, such an angel, and they happen to meet each other. It's like, oh yes, that's a beautiful providence. Yeah, I love that.
You know, the last time I saw you, at least in a professional setting, was in Estonia, and you were working with big authors, right? You were working with big authors, you were creating courses for Mindvalley, and then you left. You left around a similar time that I did. And I remember us having a conversation around that because there was something very interesting on maybe the personal path for us both, respectively. There was like a vibrational thing where we just knew we had to just step out and do something different. Couldn't really put our focus on it. But, you know, after working in that space, did that influence your next steps in what you've gone ahead and done?
Definitely.
Since then?
I mean, I always say working on Mindvalley for me was a privilege. It was something I really, really enjoyed. I loved the type of work I had. I'm a very independent person, and the type of job was very independent. So I basically was working in the quest department and designing and producing the quest, sitting one-on-one with the authors, very close contact with these people who are, you know, so smart, so wise, and so open-hearted, so beautiful. You get to learn so much from these people. So it was a privilege to be in that position, honestly. And of course, it shaped what I do later. Because see, from two sides. On the one side, when I stopped working on Mindvalley, which is probably the only company that I worked in my life, all the other time I've been a freelance or an entrepreneur. I had my own design studio, everything. It was the first time that I was working for a company. Like, wow, corporate world. Hello, had no idea how this works. And by the time I finished, I looked back into my life and I realized I did many things, but nothing that I could really feel proud of. Like, I'm 38 right now. I was 37 back then. It was like, I'm 37 years old. I'm looking back. There's no legacy in my life, something that I built over the years that is large enough that I can feel proud of. And it made me really reflect. Like, I think this is a moment of maturity right now after that moment of shift. And I said, like, you know, I'm going back into the market at being on my own. It's a good time to choose a new direction or a final direction, because I was doing so many things and I wanted to commit to something that made me feel really, really committed and the drive that comes from it. So yeah, this is when I look back into my life, like all the things that I have been doing, whether if it's design or consultation, coaching, creating my own personal brand with Mindvalley, helping these authors polish their message and be able to communicate in a more effective way, like all these things. It's like, you know what? I think personal brand puts everything together, like guiding people into creating their personal brand. It's a walk that I have walked myself, so I can prove, and I know what it feels like, and I have gathered the experience. I'm very well connected right now after that period at Mindvalley as well. So it kind of laid out the path very beautifully. It made me feel very, very engaged with the idea. So yeah, personal brand became the thing. So it absolutely influenced the way I do. Like being around these people, you get to see the behind the scenes of a personal brand. We all see the front side, how they speak, how they are influential, how they help people, or they sell the products and all these things. But when you see the behind the scenes, you get to see how do these minds operate at that level? What do they really care for? What do they prioritize? How do they create these collaborations? And there's this beautiful quote that I heard these days in Dubai, actually, recently, that it said like, people at the bottom are fighting and competing, but people at the top are collaborating. And this is something that I absolutely got to see when I was around those spheres, like seeing like these people are not really competing at all. They live in these more mellow kind of flow where everyone is helping each other and things become so much easier. And that's how I want to uh, help people to be in that space because everything unlocks so much easier. So yeah, it was a great influence. I'm very, very grateful.
Yeah, it reminds me of the when I read somewhere about the original meaning of the word competition, and it's actually just to very simplify the whole thing. It's really meant to be around you're in competition with somebody, but not in a fight, but more in a way that this person
Mm.
inspires you to want to grow and be better. You know, if you're playing tennis with somebody and that person's better than you, you're in competition with them, yet it's because they're better than you that gives you that spark to go, I want to beat this person and thank you for them being better than me. Because if it wasn't for them being better than me, life would be boring. So I love that kind of idea of looking at competition from that
I totally
perspective.
agree. Yeah, that's a beautiful, healthy side of it. And I think that people who really master this game is because they have intrinsic motivation. So if you rely only on extrinsic motivation, then everything becomes more about winning and fighting. When you have your intrinsic motivation, then this becomes like an add-on. This competition side is like, all right, extra stimulus or extra points of reference or whatever. And oftentimes in this competition happens a collaboration at the same time, and it's beautiful this way. But I, I'm sure you have experienced the same thing.
When it comes to service and collaboration, I think that comes through a sense of personal growth. You know, I think a lot of us we grow up with a lot of I need to fight and struggle and go through this survival mode. But when there's a certain element of coming into your personal peace and realizing these deeper aspects of yourself, and you don't need so much anymore, and you feel quite content with where you are and who you are, then all of a sudden service just oozes out of you rather than you're
Mm.
forcing a service, which then is very limited and that burns you out and it drains you. But when you are feeling peaceful, that service just comes out effortlessly and it ripples out in so many
So
ways.
true. Yeah. These feelings of feeling full and then having to give, that's what I was seeing on those fears. Like these people, they really are at the pinnacle, and they have this interest of giving. And this competition, it becomes like a game. That's what it is. It's a game. It doesn't matter if you lose or you win, because that's not the point in the end. It's just the context to make things happen. Yeah.
Mm. You know, when I
Mm.
first met you from the get-go, I always noticed you were always in this
Mm.
space of service. It was always fun to be around you. You're always so willing and open. I remember you've been teaching me handstands, yoga, things in the gym, so much stuff. And has that always been the case for you? Have you always felt like you're in this space of service like that, or have you sort of developed
Well, first
into
of all,
that
I felt the
space?
same about you. Let me tell you, like the day that you showed up at the office and they saw the way that people treat you. I remember you came from the other office in KL, I believe, or somewhere else. And then you showed up and I said like, oh, wow, well, people are really admiring this guy who has just arrived. Who is he? You know, like they were talking about you in very beautiful words. And I immediately understood why, because you're always also with this sense of service. So that's very reciprocal, brother. And so the question was if it's always been like that. Yeah. No, not really. And actually, not even now. Like it fluctuates. It goes up and down. Like I had a very rough end of the year, for instance. Like December was hard. I was just trying to disappear, hiding under a rock, not really being available for anyone. I had a lot of messages to respond, like you yourself. I didn't respond you for like 2 weeks, and I was feeling sorry about it. But at the same time, like sometimes you just get stuck, and all your mind plays against you, and those are no moments where you are ready to give anything. And I think if you develop enough awareness, you know that you shouldn't even try in those moments. You shouldn't even try because you are not aligned with your center, and probably what you're going to be giving, it's weird. Another thing is if it happens naturally, which I think is also the rescue. Like if naturally the context comes in such way that you find again your route back home, let's say into the center, and that tends to be very linked to your purpose and your sense of service, and an opportunity to be of service comes that is not forced. that can bring you back home. And I think that this is a little bit what happened to me here. Because I came to Dubai in a moment where I was feeling very low, and just being surrounded by these people, this community that I love, and that they appreciate me so much, and I think they count on me to be that person that you're describing. The moment that you are embraced in such way, I think you reconnect with that feeling, and everything starts flowing again. So it's confusing. It's confusing, but definitely it's not always there. I think you need to feel really grounded and really safe also, and fulfilled yourself, to have something of value to give. So yeah, I wish it was always the same and always the case, but it's not at all.
Yeah, it's important to listen to that wisdom. I think I was talking to Holly in our podcast interview as well, just around, and I appreciate what you just shared, and I appreciate you doing what you just did as well. And I think anyone listening it's really good to be reminded to hear this. When you go through, we're all human, we go through these times, and sometimes they are the moments where we just need to surrender and just let it be. Because we don't know what's going on, and maybe we're just going to hermit mode. Maybe we just want to lie in bed all day, maybe sleep for longer hours. That's okay. We go through these different cycles, but sometimes they're they're important moments, because that's where we're filling our cup and we're filling it up back again. It may seem confusing, but then once we're back on, it's almost like a light switch is back on, and then you're just like, okay, now let's get going again. Like, let's get back on messages. I'm inspired. Let's do all of this stuff. And that's where the service actually, you really create a beautiful, big, powerful service. Then imagine if you were still trying to serve everyone and message everyone and do all these different things when you're in that state, how are you going to serve them? Because they're not going to get that same level of energy that you can bring. So by having 2 weeks of not responding, that's okay.
It was more like three,
okay.
But but you're right. I totally feel you. Yeah, I know what you mean. And it's sort of like, not like, I think acting from a point of no pressure makes things natural for you, and then things flow more naturally. I think this is how people should be serving, right? Like, first find a way where you feel complete or complete enough, and then you enter into a phase where you're really willing to serve or ready to serve, and that generates more of the fulfillment, and it's a very beautiful loop to stay in. But hey, sometimes we fall out of it, and that's it. Compassion. Yeah
it's more about energy. It's not necessarily about being ready, because that is a trap. I've been through this many times over the years of just not doing anything, because I've just had this inner belief of, I'm just not ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. And actually you just have to just leap in and just do it. That classic saying, you only have to be one step ahead of the next person in order to teach them, to coach them, to guide them through something. So, it's funny. This question just comes up now. I don't know why, but something that always stumped me, and I speak to so many people, and nearly I'd say probably 90% of people say they hate this question. But when we meet people for the first time, often we ask them, what do you do?
Yes.
Now, I'm just wondering, do you know why that stumps people?
Yeah, definitely. That's a question that I wrestle with, or I help people wrestle with day and night. It's all the time there. And things that people know what they do, but they don't know how to say it, or they don't know how to explain it in a way that it's adequate for the situation. So just imagine you are in a networking event or something like this. Somebody comes and asks you, like, what do you do? Of course, they don't want to know everything. Oftentimes, this is even a question that you make, out of courtesy. Like, this is what you should be asking in such context. So you need to be smart enough to read the situation, understand how much interest does the other person have. You need to gauge this thing. And depending on that, you will give more or less information. So there's an art at explaining what do you do in such way that it will trigger curiosity in the other person. So I always say, look, give them just enough so that they will end up at the end of your little speech of 30 seconds explaining what you do, they will end up saying, okay, that sounds interesting. Like, tell me more about it. And if you get to do that, when they ask you, tell me more about it, they are giving you permission to go and expand a bit more, not the whole thing. Like, don't give them again now the 5 minute speech, like maybe another 30 seconds, 1 minute of going a bit deeper. So you need to know your craft in those layers that you can peel one after the other, and that you know that you have particular ways to explain what you do, which always leave it open, always make people more curious about what you do. But one way that it's important to present yourself is by explaining, first of all, who are you? Because people don't know. And you just assuming that people know your name, or if you're the founder of a certain company or something, just say, that's my name, that's the business I'm running, that's my company, or I work for that company, so that they have context. People need context to make sense of things, right? Especially if you're going to flood them with information. Think of like throwing a lot of water into someone. They will not be able to get this water and hold it. But if you give them a bucket, then when you throw this water, they can collect this water in the bucket. So the bucket is the context. If you give them a little bit of context, then you can throw more information at them. They will know how to handle it. So give them your name and give them a little bit, a rough introduction into what is the industry that you're working in. So you and me work a lot with coaches, and we have been surrounded in this world of spiritual awareness and healing and all this shit. So when people present themselves as, yeah, I do astrology and astral projection, and I read Akashic records, and I do Reiki, da da da. For someone who is not in this universe, that sounds like I don't understand anything. There's no context. There's nothing I can. There's no drawer or bucket where I can put this information and store it in my mind. So, how about you say, look, I'm a spiritual coach, or I'm a life coach, something that the other person can make sense of. It doesn't need to be accurate. This is not the time to be accurate or perfect or super precise. You need to be a bit generic. I always say this when I help people create their personal brands. Like, you are creating your personal brand. It's like you are building a beautiful building. Like, we're in Dubai right now. You're building the Burj Khalifa. This is you. You're going to be that beautiful building. And you want people to get to that building and get to know all the things you have inside, all this knowledge you can share. But if you create the Burj Khalifa and you put 24 doors around it, people don't know how to enter the building. And then people will walk away because they are confused. And confusion is the worst thing you can give to people. People don't want your confusion. People want your clarity. When they are asking you, what do you do? What they are asking you is like, which door of your building should I use to enter? So if you have one door, it's so much easier. So just say, hey, I'm a life coach. This is the main entrance. Once they are inside and they ask, okay, and then maybe you drop a couple of interesting facts about it, or the way that you help people in a significant way that it's juicy, interesting, or curious, even controversial, something that would spark curiosity. And then they say, tell me more about it. I want to know more. And then you can lead with questions. That's the second way to introduce yourself in the best way. Lead with questions to the other person so that they become the protagonists of the conversation, and they will always keep on making you questions that you can respond to. I think this is the way to introduce yourself and to say, what do you do? It's like, I do this, very generic. Now tell me a little bit about you. And I try to introduce what I do into your context, because the more I know who you are and what you do as well and everything, I can give you a response which is more tailored to your interest. And then I will make sure that it will always be memorable. Normally we want people to remember us, right? Especially if we're networking. So yeah, that's how I craft this art of presenting yourself. It's not easy. I mean, it can be easy. It needs a bit of thinking through it. That's it. But then eventually you learn it by heart, and then you feel so much more confident when you are in those situations.
I guess also practice, right? You need to keep putting yourself out there and going to different events and things like that to actually put it into practice. Because if you spend weeks and months and a year or whatever, and you haven't ever put yourself in the situation where you're having these regular conversations, then you're going to feel like a fish out of water all of a sudden. I know that for myself because I've struggled in this place, but I do know that when I go somewhere, say like a networking event or a seminar or something like that, and you've got a few days to talk to somebody, and I've got the intention of actually having these conversations, then I can keep practicing and refining that. But if it just comes off the bat in the street and you're not prepared for it, that can stump you, and you could lose if you're in a business. You could lose a
You
client
absolutely
in
do
that
lose
moment
clients if you're
because
not prepared for that. Yeah, absolutely. And practicing is important. And basically also because you don't want to sound too robotic neither. And practice gives you this naturality that this is so embedded into who you are and the way that you normally speak that it comes out naturally. It doesn't come too robotic
yeah.
and then you don't have to be focusing on the words. You can focus on the actual interaction, the connection, the emotion, like really listening to the person you have in front of yourself. And I think that that meta communication speaks even more than the particular words you're saying. So you just want to have a baseline of words that you know that work and have them like, you know, like in automatic pilot and then focus on everything else, which is what really creates a connection. Yeah.
I think many of us get into this sense of if I say this one thing that I do, that I'm somehow limiting myself. Now, I've always struggled with the word coach, for example. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just a limiting belief or something like that. But it's like some people would say, "Oh, you're a healer." Some people would say, "I'm a coach." But because there's so many life coaches out there, I don't want to be associated with this big puddle of life coaches. I want to be something different. And everyone knows they're unique, but they don't want to be put into this bucket. But then we end up causing ourselves even more problems because now we're trying to find a different fancy word to do that, which then the other person doesn't even understand what the hell that means. So how do you help people refine that?
Oftentimes you don't even need to give yourself a title. Like I depend on the context I do it. If I see that the person in front of me is ready to receive a title, I will say I'm a branding consultant or a personal branding consultant. If not, if I see like we're in a context where maybe that person doesn't know anything about this, they are not in business or whatever, then I lead with something else. I would say, so nice to meet you. My name is Vic Moya. I'm the founder of Rockstar Brands. And I'm in the world of personal branding. I make people shine. And saying this, personal branding, they know what universe I belong to. And I say, I make people shine. I didn't say at any point if I'm a coach, if I'm a consultant, if I'm a designer. They still don't know. They only know the result of what I do, which I phrased in a way that will generate curiosity. You make people shine? What do you mean by that? And then we engage in the conversation,
exactly.
right? Oftentimes they will also ask if they already feel like they could be interested, how can you help me? And then it almost becomes like a quest for a sales call in the moment, you know, like it's a perfect moment for you to make questions, extract information from them. But I would free people from having to define themselves. Like you don't have to. Let the person in front of you define you in any way that they consider necessary, that plays in their favor to remember you. You can only say like, look, I work in this industry, that's useful, and that's the result I get into my clients, bonus. And let them define it or put in whatever tag they want. It's often interesting also to listen, what tag would they give me, you know? And it kind of reflects you back. This is how people see me. It's so interesting. Yeah.
When you just said that, I make people shine. It made me think of the integrity. I don't know if that's the right word, but the integrity when it comes to personal branding. And for example, if you were to say, "Hi, I'm Vic Moya. I've got Rockstar Brands, and I make people shine."
And you're not shining yourself.
And you say it with this, and you're not shining yourself. They're
Yeah.
like, "Really? What? Okay, next." So because from what I know about you, you do have this infectious, vibrant, shining energy. So when you do say that, I am actually now going to listen. I make people shine. Well, I believe you because you're actually shining right now. So how important is that to connect I guess that's what the personal branding is all about, right? Is connecting your soul, your deep, authentic energy with what you're bringing to the world and serving.
I think it's all a consequence of what you just said, authenticity, which eventually sprouts from a journey of personal growth. So personal brand and personal growth are so close together, so related. My previous personal brand was me being a coach in personal growth for the Spanish market. This is the first personal brand I created for myself. And most of the methodologies that I was using to guide my students into discovering who they are the same ones I use today to teach my clients or to guide them into, again, discovering who they are. Because what I believe is that branding is not creating, branding is revealing. You cannot create a personal brand. it exists. It's there. Like it's the beat inside the marble, right? Like you need to uncover it somehow. And personal growth is the way to discover what is inside that person, what makes them unique, what do they really care for, what is their real energy signature, what can they bring to the table besides the intellectual expertise, everything else that makes who that person is, and that eventually makes the connection happen with the audience. And when you know that and you put that at the center of the personal brand or the business, everything flows naturally. Authenticity just happens. You don't even need to force it to think about it. Because I never thought about being energetic or anything like this. It's just who I am. That's it. I just can't help it. I couldn't speak like this right now. I would know. I would fall asleep while I'm speaking. But I've seen other people whose personal brand is all about taking care of you, and they are massaging you with their words because they're so soft and gentle, and they smell good, and everything about them is like, oh, just cuddle me with your energy and in your arms if necessary, and it works because that's what they offer. It's so aligned, it's so beautiful. But I think it's all about having this process of personal growth, discovering who you are, and then surrendering to it, putting it at the center, and shamelessly and unapologetically expressing it through your personal brand, which is nothing but a vehicle to show who you are and create those connections.
I love what you just said as well about branding is revealing. And one thing that comes to mind for me is, for example, say we watch a bunch of talks, someone like Tony Robbins, for example. Now you got someone like me has got a completely different demeanor to Tony Robbins, but I'd maybe watch Tony Robbins, and then I get all inspired by his energy, and wow, he's got all these businesses, he takes action, he does all these great things, and now all of a sudden I'd be comparing myself. And I think the comparison thing is the problem. So now I'm comparing myself to him and wanting to now let me try and put my personal brand in the same category as him, but then I can't actually live up to that because my authentic self is actually a bit more of a peaceful, grounded kind of person. And that is really beautiful. Branding is revealing. So I've got to reveal the actual authentic part of myself, which then involves the personal growth aspect that you shared, which means now I have to come and love the parts of myself.
Yeah, totally. It's like there's a bit like authenticity has become such a buzzword lately, and I hear many conversations around this idea and say like authenticity is all about showing your hard moments as well, and like not showing. It's like this is not wrong, but I believe that more at the core, authenticity has to do with you knowing who you are. That's it. Like in your case, for instance, Steve, I think your brand is very aligned with your vibe and who you are. Like the type of help that you offer, it's all about getting grounded. And there's a lot about feeling safe. And it's all over you. Like your energy, your tone of voice, which is so grounded, your pace, your pace, sorry, your speaking pace, like you calm down, you speak slowly but confident and directly. You have this beautiful native accent. Like all these things make someone feel safe, home, taken care of, and it offers an opportunity to surrender, which is exactly what I believe that you need from your clients, for them to surrender and therefore find the path forward in all of this, right? I know it because I've been lucky enough to be on your hands with some sessions and some help. So that's my experience about you, and I think it's absolutely aligned. And it's obvious that you have this personal growth path already very developed. But what I want to bring about is that many times it's not like you need to go and do a personal growth course right now so that I have my personal brand. Oftentimes, it just happens like you already are who you are, and it's natural unless you have been infecting yourself or conditioning yourself with wanting to be that who you are not. If you're at baseline, that's already all you need. Then everything you can add on top when it comes to personal growth will add more awareness. But coming back to baseline is enough. That's all you need. And it's a lot about stripping layers away of this conditioning you have created about yourself. And I should be more like this. I should be more like that. I'm comparing myself to Tony Robbins or whoever's like, no. Just forget about all of these. Who are you in the absence of all of these, right? That's your personal brand. It's that simple, actually.
If that's all you get out of stepping into, say, working with someone like you and doing a branding work, that's one of the most powerful things, is to accept who you are, your authentic self, because I can't fake. I mean, my tone of voice might change if I start talking about martial arts, for example. If I get in a conversation talking about things like Kung Fu martial arts, then I speed up and I get all excited, you know? But in general, yeah, you're right. I tend to have this kind of vibe. Actually leads me to something else, where it comes to you, for example. You're multi-dimensional. You're so talented. I've seen you've got, like I said earlier, the handstands, the yoga. You do so many things. Only mentioning two there. Same for me, like musician, martial arts. These are deep passions of mine. Now, someone says, "What do you do?" That's the challenge of what do I say? And that's where the practice comes in, I guess, because I'm like, I have to gauge the context in which I'm at, because if I'm in a networking conference where everyone's expecting to be exchanging business cards and things, and then all of a sudden I start talking about martial arts and music, that's not really necessarily going to land. But that's what actually tripped me up so much, is because I've got all these things going on that I love so much, and I don't want to simplify myself into this one thing where I'm a coach, which was never the plan anyway. So how did you personally overcome that yourself?
Myself, I try to always stay very humble, which is difficult because you get taken away by the idea of somebody showing interest for you and asking you, what do you do? And of course, you make it about yourself. It's like, it's my time to respond and explain everything about me. But if in that moment you're able to ground yourself, which is very hard, and I still struggle with it, and think like, this conversation is not about me. They are asking me about me, but it's not really about me. It's about the other person. Then it becomes like, how can I serve the other person with my question the most? And this is what you just said comes in place. Like, look at the context. Who is that person? Who introduced me? What could they be interested in? What do they need to know about me so that a channel for service opens up? And then you choose you choose the answer which is more adequate for that purpose. Conversely, the other side of the coin, because every coin has two sides, you have to be also aware of what is your own strategy. So at different stages in life, different moments, different contexts, you will want to be recognized as one thing or another. Like, for instance, the two main things that I still keep on doing consistently and I really want to build a career on, 90% is personal branding, consultancy, helping people create a personal brand. I have the DJ life that I have conducted since forever. I've been a DJ since forever. It's still very fun to do. And that means that if I'm one day in a club and the owner of a nightclub comes and asks me, what do you do? In that context, I will choose to say I'm a DJ. Because what could I expect from that person? Strategically, the transaction I would like to establish, or the relationship, the way I want them to see me is as a DJ. Because an opportunity could open for me to serve and get something in return. So you need to be aware of what game are you playing? And that requires this awareness. And look, nothing is like 100% given. You don't know what's going to happen. Maybe actually this guy from the nightclub needed to know that I'm a personal brand, but you bet on your chances, and you choose what you consider is more necessary. And eventually, I believe that if the conversation really gets to a point where there's a real connection, all the cards will be laid down. Anyway, it's just a matter of time. So it's more about choosing what's the best entry point and realizing that it's just an entry point. This does not need to limit me. It's a door that is actually opening me the opportunity to lay down the rest of the cards. It's not about limiting. It's about buying myself an opportunity to explain everything else. That's how I try to see it, and always trying to not make it about myself, which is extremely hard, because the moment we get interest and question from other person, our ego comes around. It's like, all right, it's my time. Let me show. But yeah, it's about the other.
Yeah, it's a good filter, actually. You know, if you just lay this one thing, DJ, and you come with this energy and you connect, then very naturally you get to share all the other aspects of yourself. But if the person's like, oh, I'm not really that interested, great. Well, we're probably not going to be a good fit working together anyway.
Totally.
This is perfect.
And look, in a very simple way, a conversation like this with this guy from the nightclub, fictitious, could go like, hey, what do you do? So I'm a DJ. Oh, you're a DJ. So are you here in Dubai to DJ? And I could say, no, I'm actually meeting my clients. What do you mean? So actually, I'm a DJ, but my main thing is I'm a personal brand consultant. All right, that's so interesting. Like it adds dimension, but see, I didn't drop all the information at once. Like conversation led to questions made by the other person that give me permission. And then I might turn around the question. So you are a nightclub owner, or do you also do more things, have more businesses? And then this connection is established because, again, it's about the other person. And what you are always in your interest is to get to know the most about the other person. That allows you to create this connection. And this personal brand is just a vehicle for these connections to happen.
You know, this is one of the catalysts for doing this podcast as well, I realized, is I love talking to people. In fact, the opposite way, I love listening to people when they're really in their passion, you know. And what I also realized is I sense a lot of energy. So sometimes I can sense when somebody starts to feel uncomfortable that they are talking too much, for example. Because every person on the planet loves to talk about themselves. We got to acknowledge that. And I realized that, wow, this is a great place for me to have this platform where the person has 100% permission to just talk about themselves the whole time without this feeling of, oh my God, I'm talking too much, but I can't stop myself. I've got this, I'm on this roll now. And yeah, I can often sense that in sort of more public spaces of when somebody's like, they're really loving it, but they're feeling uncomfortable that they're doing that. You know? And I think it's really fun to just keep allowing them, because when someone's in their essence and their authenticity, there's very little much more beautiful to listen to than when someone's just so in their passion. You know, I could listen to someone all day talking about, you know, how they watch paint dry, but if they're super excited about it, I'll be excited to listen to it.
It's also true that sometimes we get trapped in conversations we don't want to have, and you need to have the awareness enough, you know, and the ability to set boundaries to escape them. But yeah, for the most part, if you're doing things right, I believe you end up talking to people who really have something interesting to share. And even if in the beginning it doesn't look like, if you stay for long enough, you might discover something cool. Yeah. I think we have become very impatient lately, right? With social media and everything. We just don't have the patience to listen to people. And this is a shame, because that's really damaging the way that we create connections, and there's no room for depth. It's a bit sad. And I'm aware with this, with myself, and I always try to like, okay, give an extra minute for that person to express and make that an extra question, because it could be interesting. And I'm very, very socially awkward and very introvert and very shy. So if I don't know the person in front of me, man, I suffer. I suffer from not knowing what to say. Oh my God, this is like a nightmare. But if you are able to surf this wave, it's always very rewarding.
It's funny. I'm just reflecting on you, because people watching you, and well, especially me, when you say I'm, say, introverted, it doesn't come across to other people. And that's the funny thing. You know, people would look at you, oh, Vic, he's so extroverted. He's out there. He's all the way. Don't realize there's so much more depth to you. And obviously that would come with the presence and having a conversation with you and actually realizing, yeah, actually, I prefer my space.
Right? But it's the case for most personal brands. See, what happens with personal brands is that they are normally people who are very good at what they do. They are experts into something. Who are the most experts in it? They tend to be introverts because they have spent a lot of time by themselves, learning something, crafting it. And the problem they have is that they are not good at small talk. They are not good at establishing those kind of shallow connections. This is where they suffer. Me, myself. The reason you are seeing me this way right now, fired up, or the audience or whatever, is because we are talking about something I love. That's it. So having a personal brand and knowing how to communicate what you stand for in the context of this personal brand allows you to have these conversations where you are able to go and shine and let yourself go. So something I always explain is that I've been working with these authors at Mindvalley, and if you're seeing me as somewhat extrovert or capable of speaking, they are the pinnacle. They are so charismatic and they are so good and they go on stage and they rock and it's incredible and everybody would think that they are like the best communicators and all of this. I have seen them also becoming shy, introverted, nervous, insecure when they didn't have a strong message to share. So I always say it's not about charisma, it's about having a strong message. Because the times that I've been working with people who are more introvert and shy and geeky, they are not stage animals. The moment you give them a solid message, the moment you are able to go into their minds and dig a little bit and extract the jewel and then put it in front of them and shape it in a way that they can actually articulate and feel confident, these people go from being shy in a corner and able to speak, their chest inflates, their chin raises, and they are able to take over the conversation very confident and they want to keep on talking. And witnessing this transformation is incredible. It's very beautiful. So it's not about charisma. For anyone who's watching here and they think like, no, but I don't have the energy, I don't have what it takes. Like what you need is the expertise. That really is true, because otherwise you're just like fake, and we don't want that, right? You need to be really an expert into something. You need to have something genuine to share, tap into your authenticity, who you really are, and then eventually know how to articulate it. This is just a matter of a bit of technicity or practice or whatever. But once you have these things in place, you're ready to go and communicate and enjoy these conversations that otherwise you would feel awkward in a corner. So for me, having a personal brand has saved me a lot of anxious moments in this sense. Yeah, and I'm sure that you feel the same. Because when you speak also about the things you love, I see this affecting you. Whereas otherwise you're also more in the shy side. And like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Mm.
easily a hermit. I can drop into hermit mode like that. But what I'm hearing you say right now is, this is my perception on this, is if somebody that feels maybe they don't have any charisma, if they can just take a moment and think about, okay, what there are definitely moments in their life where they just super geeked out on a topic, where all of a sudden you just mention something. It could be the most bizarre and obscure kind of thing, but when they talk about it, all of a sudden they light up. I mean, it could be they building Lego. It could be something as small as that, But I guess just finding those things that you geek out on and then trying to just like reverse engineer that energy and just find that within you, because then you realize I do have charisma. It's just I can't fake charisma when I'm talking about something I'm not interested in, which then teaches us, well, then in order to be successful, or whatever the word you want to use, you've got to be authentic. You can't fake this. So you need to find this stuff and then use that.
You don't come back always to the same principles, right? Like figure out what you really care for and put it at the center of your life. That's it. It's like the basic principles of spirituality and personal growth and everything. And I believe probably business in general as well. They apply the same to personal brand. And in the end, personal brand is a lot of communication. So they apply to basic principles of communication. Yeah, it's actually very simple.
There's a connection between everything in this universe, how we work, sports, martial arts, music. There's like a mind and body connection here. There's presence. There's going with the flow and letting yourself get lost, so you can allow this flow to come through, so you can perform the best music when you're in that flow. If you're too boxed in, you're very rigid and robotic. And often that connects with anything that you're trying to teach. So finding that thing you geek out about, and then find the connection between that and the philosophy between that and what you're actually trying to teach.
Ways to unlock creativity, right? And in the end, we humans are so primed for pattern recognition. So when you are very good at pattern recognition in one topic, like music, those same patterns, you start seeing them everywhere else. That's something that I always tell my personal brand is like, guys, what you're doing is observing the world through the lenses of whatever is the topic that you're explaining. So if you happen to be a personal brand about music, that's your topic, that's what you talk about, what you teach, how you inspire, whatever. What you have to do is present the world, the same world that we are all inhabiting, through your lenses, through your own perspective as an expert into something for the rest of the world, so that you can turn something absolutely mundane to me into a masterpiece because it passes through your lenses and you give that particular touch and you allow me to see that which I cannot see in this world, which is so filled with magic wherever you look, right? So I think people who are experts at something and they are so embedded into the pattern recognition of this particular topic, they develop those lenses, and the fact that they can share it with us is such a privilege. That's what we are. That's why we feel so inspired when, I don't know, like I love quantum mechanics and physics and astrology and all these things. I don't have a degree at all in all these things. And you present me the equations, I feel lost. I see these equations like, oh my God, I would never be able to solve this. But when I listen to an astrologist, like one of these guys who can really create very good metaphors, like Neil deGrasse Tyson or Brian Cox or Brian Greene, all these people who are so good at recognizing those patterns and putting them for me, laying them down in something mundane that I can understand, bang, they unlock a new universe of knowledge. And that's why we feel so grateful to these people and we follow them, we praise them, we buy the books. It's because they open a new landscape and it's so beautiful. And they do it by just tapping into whatever they are absolutely geeks about. So shamelessly geek about whatever you love and just turn it into the privilege that other people can have accessing that universe through your lenses. That's what personal brand.
It can be a little bit of a challenge to put yourself into someone else's shoes to then understand how to communicate to this person. Is this a challenge that you know of? Do you see other people that you work with when it comes to branding?
It's a very common challenge. And there's a strategy behind it, the way to do it right. And if you pay attention, all good personal brands and corporate brands in general, the ones which really create connections with their audiences, they follow a particular formula. So this is described in Donald Miller's framework, this the story brand framework. You can see it in his book. And he comes to describe that people operate within 3 layers of problems, needs, and desires. And they go from the inside out. So the most external layers of problems are those which are very obvious, the tangible problems that people have. And the reason why they would go to seek for help from you, or I always put the example, for instance, from someone who needs a computer. And I feel like I need a computer to work. That's the most essential thing and the main external problem, right? So Apple would detect that people need computers to work better or faster or whatever. That's the most external layer. If you go one layer deeper, is the internal problem. And this is the most interesting one, because here's how it goes. Because the external problem is not fixed, is not sorted out, that generates some feelings inside the person. So the middle layer, internal layer, it's all about the frustrations, the feelings, the disturbing feelings they feel, inadequacy, they feel incapable, they feel ostracized, or they feel lonely, they feel lost. Whatever it is, they are suffering. And if you know this layer, if you know that your audience is not looking for a strong computer, what they are really looking for is feeling capable at work, or feeling like not frustrated with a computer which is slow, or the capacity to deliver better work so that they feel fulfilled. That's a totally different game. Personal brands should be communicating at that level, at the internal level. They should be talking to you about the things that they know that you're suffering from. Because the thing is that when you are able to articulate the problems that your audience have, even better than they would do themselves, the connection establishes immediately. The moment they see that you know the problem better than me, I immediately assume that you also have the solution. And then the inquirer starts. This is when comes the, oh, I need to know more about these people. I need to hear about what they're saying. I need to know more about the methodology. They seem to know so well the problem. They know exactly how I'm feeling. They probably have the solution, so I need to know more. And then they become more interested. And then we have the external layer, we have the internal layer. the internal layer describes the emotions that are necessary for the person to take action. So we all have problems that we are not really urging to resolve. We are leaving them for tomorrow. Why? Because we don't suffer enough from them. So the only reason somebody would take real action and go and purchase a product or a service is because there's enough turmoil in the internal layer. They are suffering enough. Otherwise, they would never take action. So talk to them in this layer, because emotion inspires action. It's not really the external problem from the intellect. That can live for tomorrow. My emotions, I cannot live for tomorrow. Those need urgent resolving right now. And then the deepest layer is the philosophical problem. So we have external problem, internal problem, philosophical problem. Philosophical problem describes all the things that your audience thinks that are wrong with this world. So there's a problem that has not been solved. Therefore, I feel internal turmoil. And I essentially feel like this is philosophically wrong. I should not even be feeling this way. So the philosophical problem responds to everything that that the things that should not be or should be in a certain way, or the things that I feel like I deserve something better. The world should be different. If you connect with that level, you are connecting to their deepest motto, what they really, really care. So why does this problem even matter? So following the same example, right? Like Apple would discover that the frustration that their audience was experiencing is the overwhelming complexity of technology. And they gave a response by creating technology which is very easy to use, very user-friendly. But at the core of the thing, the philosophical problem is technology should not make life harder, should make life easier. And that's what informs everything that Apple does, that core belief. Technology should not make things more difficult, and that's a shared belief with their audience. So if you can understand which are these three layers of problems, needs, and desires that your audience have, then you can absolutely communicate in one of the three layers at every stage of the conversation and create a whole sense of connection where there's emotion, there's intellect, there's reasoning, there's logic, and at the same time there's a deep sense of these are the same things that we believe, like we are on the same team. We care for the same things, and I absolutely understand how you feel. So count on me to be the guide who takes you out of this hole and to present you with a solution. And when this thing happens, we immediately trust the brand.
And I guess this is where you help people. Then they get the idea. Oh wow, okay, they've got the aha moment, and now you help them unpack each one of these so that they can actually connect it with themselves, because it's almost like plugging something in. When you get all this information that you help people unpack like this, and then they plug it in, as soon as it's plugged in, it's like Iron Man, that light shines up and then the power comes out 10 times more powerful, 100 times more powerful, because it's now understood on all levels of the mind.
It's about really, really knowing who are you helping at every level. And that tends to be, again, a pattern that repeats. So if you're able to recognize a pattern, then you can use it in your favor. And your audience will be very, very grateful, because people want to be seen, people want to be recognized and understood. So if you have a mechanism to present them the problem that they have in a way that they feel heard, understood, they will forever be grateful to you for answer.
Talking about this personal energy and this clear message, which is beautiful, because often branding, you think about it in terms of logo, color, language, all these classic things. How important are they in this whole branding journey?
I love separating the core of a brand into two aspects which are very distinctive. One of them is what's at the core in terms of the message. Like, how does this brand communicate? What is at the essence? What do they really believe in? And what is the message that they're going to use to communicate and connect with the audience? Another part, which is also very important, because we are visual animals. Like, I believe I heard someday that 90% of our sensorial stimulus come through the eyes. So we are very, very visual. So visual identity is also something very important. Here we're talking about typographies, colors, particular arrangements, layouts, all of these things that make a brand recognizable from 1 mile away. So visual identity is very good because your brain is primed for this pattern recognition, especially visual pattern recognition. So if you can stand out from a crowded market with something that makes you look unique, that will leave a memorable impression. So design is not only about decoration, design is communication. So if you can link the way that your visual identity and your design is tightly synchronized with your brand message, then your visual identity starts communicating the same ideas, or at least the same emotions, the same landscape, the theme that you want to conduct with your personal brand message. Think of a movie, like think of a theme of a movie. It's not the same watching Star Wars or The Lord of the Rings or, I don't know, a rom comedy. It's not the same. They have different something to it. And look, Star Wars and The Lord of the Rings might not be that different in the sense that there's a fight of evil versus good. And there are heroes and there are monsters that they need to defeat. It's just they happen in absolutely different themes and they give a different essence to it, right? So a question that I always make to my personal brands when we work together is like, if you were to be a movie, which movie would you be? Or at least what's the ballpark? What would you be, a space Star Wars movie? Would you be a medieval thing? Would you be I don't know, Interstellar? Or would you be a music rock band type of a movie? Or what would you be, right? And that informs a lot. It gives a very clear direction of where should we go with the visual identity. But I believe visual identity is secondary to the message. I think the message is still the most important part. And there's a framework to come up with that message in a very solid way that then the visual identity can hook into in order to communicate the same things from the visual aspect. But yeah, visual identity, it's important. But again, the message is still the most, yeah, so much so that originally in my programs, when I work one-on-one with the clients, I used to include visual identity as one of the main aspects of it. And I'm really considering to put it just like as an add-on at the end of the process, because I don't want them to get distracted with it. It's very distracting. It's visual, you want to look beautiful, and then you forget about being deep rather than beautiful. You know, it's like, let's focus first on realizing what you have to say and nail it down and make sure that this is a message that really connects, really reaches, really lands, and then we beautify it with graphics or whatever. But let's make sure that the core is super nailed down.
You brought up a couple of things here for me. One, just in that last part you were just sharing, it's like building a car, right? You want to make sure the car's working. You want to make sure that the steering works properly, the suspension, everything's great, and it's going to run really smoothly. And then, and I'm sure this isn't the way it's built, but just play with me here. The last thing you want to be focusing on is the body. Now make it look beautiful. You know, but if it looks beautiful and drives like a piece of shit, then what's the point? But if it drives really well, I'd rather it drive really well and maybe not look so great than look super great and not drive very well at all. So these are two things. And I think I think it's really great that you actually de-emphasize that. It's not saying it's not important, but it's actually by putting it back here, you're actually saying, look, let's get the energy correct. Let's get your message correct. Let's get your essence, your authenticity correct. And then all of this will come much easier because you'll be able to even connect with it. You'll pick a color, you'll pick a logo. And because you're so in tune with who you are and what you're offering, you will actually know straight away, no, that's not it. So your intuition can actually enhance. But if you're not clear on your authenticity, who you are, then you can get pulled around all over the place. Oh, maybe I like this. I like green. I like blue. I'm not sure what I want, you know?
Yeah. And especially with personal brands. I mean, with corporate brands, I would still say like, all right, maybe having a nice logo, whatever, all these things matter more. But with personal brand, like your face is the logo. Like people are connecting with you. Maybe they don't care so much about what typography are you wearing. Are you displaying on top of your face? What they care is seeing your face, like looking into your eyes. And they don't care so much about if you have like the most beautiful eyes or just some random eyes or whatever. What they care is like there's a natural, real connection there. It's human to human. That's what they really care for. And everything else is on top. Corporate brands don't have a face that we can connect with in a human way. Therefore, we deflect to other assets that give that personalization, right? Logos and all these things, they come to supply the absence of a face and the human. But if there's a human, we will always choose to connect with human because that's our human nature. And you can see that in all major brands. If they have a founder who is a personal brand ahead of the company, that personal brand makes so much better when it comes to connection, following, numbers, and everything than the brand itself. Richard Branson, many more followers than Virgin. It happens with Mindvalley and Vision. Vision has many more followers than Mindvalley. It happens with Tim Cook has many more followers than Apple. And he's not even Steve Jobs, which was the charismatic one, who was the visionary. If he was alive and he was in social media, how much prominent would he be more than Apple? It happens across all of the companies you can imagine. Elon with Tesla or SpaceX or even NASA. Gary Vee, many more followers than Varney Media or any of all the companies he has. So focus always on creating the personal brand first rather than the corporate profile, because that's the one that actually drives attention, drives traffic, and drives the business. And then the company, yeah, it needs to be aligned, but it's secondary. People will buy because they have connected with the person and they have connected with something that the person really resonates with. That's the most important thing. And for that, visual identity is secondary.
Oh, great. I was just about to ask a question. Well, not a question, but ask you to elaborate on the corporate personal branding, because that's where I've definitely gotten tripped up over the time, spending too much time on the logo and stuff, but it makes a lot of sense that, you just focusing on the personal brand, making it clear that that's not the corporate brand, that maybe you actually have two things. You are the personal brand for this other thing. So you're going to have two separate brandings almost that will be tied together, but primarily you want to get the personal brand nailed first.
Yeah. It's more important to get the personal brand nailed first. And there's differences. Like corporate brands and personal brands don't operate in the same level. Like for instance, personal brands tend to be much more conversational, more direct. They seem like they are talking to you. Whereas corporate brands tend to be more promotional. They are more about marketing, presentation of a product or a service. And we have different threshold of trust or the things that we are willing to allow from a person or from a corporate. Another difference, like a personal brand will sound more authentic, more relatable. Like it's all about the proximity. Whereas a corporate brand will always try to sound more polished, more formal, trying to appeal a broader audience. It's a different thing. Personal brands are opinionated. Like people want to know what you think about particular subjects. Whereas corporate brands tend to be more informative. They inform about things that have been happening, but they don't give so much of an opinion. They don't position themselves so much. So there's a bunch of different, and one of the most important ones is how polarizing do you dare to be? Because we all look up to corporate brands and we want to emulate them, which is totally wrong. But what happens with corporate brands is that they tend to not polarize too much. It's risky for them. It's risky for a corporate brand to be very polarizing, but it's very risky for a personal brand not to be polarizing, because we understand that people do have emotions. People care about things, and people are for and against other things. We have a polar nature as humans, and we can forgive this from a corporate brand. But from a personal brand, if you don't show me your colors, you fall flat. And if you fall flat, I cannot trust you. So it's important for a personal brand to be able to display and show the things that hit you up, the things that you're against, the things that you're for. Whereas for a corporate brand, it's a bit more risky. So there's basic differences, and it's way easier to be a personal brand, by the way, and more powerful. Like most corporate brands are right now trying to play the game of personal branding. They are realizing how since the rise of internet, personal brandings have had a massive explosion, and they are eating market quota, and they are trying to, it's very funny to see big corporations trying to talk to you like they are a person, and they are trying to embody these personal qualities, and it doesn't cut through, and it's like, it doesn't make sense. And conversely, we are so stupid, personal brands, looking up at corporate brands and trying to be like them, like large and polished and perfect. It's like, no, that's not the game. They are trying to be like you. You are already on the winning side. stay as you are, stay personal brand, and keep doing things with this authenticity and this level of more intimate and proximity connection, because that's all in your favor and only you can do it. That's the biggest advantage we have against massive corporations. So let's use it.
I feel this is potentially one of the biggest aspects. If we can nail that, it involves so much fear, so much stuff up in our face, especially, many humans, we go through certain levels of people pleasing, things like this. So we all want to try and please everyone and make sure everyone's happy. So it brings up a lot of fear when you say, what do you stand for? And can you nail that and just really open and you go, yeah, I believe in all of this, but I still honor and want to just honor all these people over here. Now, obviously, I can see that's very detrimental. I'd love to just dive more deeply into this.
Let's go. Let's dive in. So look, I love what you just said right now because it's so true. I feel it myself, and I know that everybody feels it. But what I have come to realize is that we are not so afraid about saying I stand for something or against something. What we are really afraid is having to correct ourselves if we change opinion. That really sucks. Having to say, hey, I was wrong and now I think differently. Oh my God, the ego suffers so much. So that requires a lot of courage. And this is the reason why many people don't even take the first stance. It's because what if I change my opinion and then I have to say something different? So I really admire figures like, for instance, Joe Rogan. He has several times said something different. And look, I used to think this, now I think that. And he has this genuine openness about it. That's really, really admirable. Another thing about the polarizing message is that for me personally, the way that I'm trying to help personal brands become personal brands is by helping them become thought leaders. And I always tell them, look, we tend to forget what it means to be a thought leader. Like it's in the same word. Thought leader. You want to lead people into thinking. And there's nothing that will lead people into thinking more than a polarizing message, something that is triggering, something that makes them rethink their points of view, something that makes them flip the narratives or challenge their assumptions, and they will have to think about it. So that naturally, immediately turns you into a thought leader. Doesn't matter if you have a lot of attention or little, the fact that you're making people think turns you into a thought leader. Another very interesting thing about the polarizing message is that it makes you unforgettable. Like people will remember what you said. It makes you memorable and they will want to engage with you, which is one of the best parts of it. Like the polarizing message is the one that drives more attention because we humans respond to drama. So if you are going to put something out there which is kind of dramatic, is touching on someone's wound, or basically it's you displaying whatever you feel from a fired up place, like I'm doing right now. Like you feel fired up about it. People connect with this because it's real emotion and has an intensity. And people connect with intense emotions more than anything. So it's a very good thing. It will generate a lot of attention and engagement. So now that we are in the world of, or the war with attention, gathering attention and generating more engagement, nothing generates more engagement than a polarizing message. People will feel absolutely triggered to leave a comment, to leave their opinions, to say what they think. And it's true, and this is another thing that people often get afraid of, is like, I will get a lot of haters, or people will stop liking me. Two things we need to understand here. For every hater that you make, your lovers double down on you. And you should not care about the haters. Haters are only polluting all your space. Haters are only giving you incorrect feedback. Why would you care about what these people think? They are never going to be your customers. They are never going to be part of the journey of growth of your brand or your business or development of your product. Why would you even care? There's nothing worse than talking to the wrong audience because they will look at you like they are not understanding anything, like you are worthless, and that would fill you with self-doubt and make you think like you are worthless and you should change everything. That's the worst possible experience you can have, and it only gives you bad feedback that you should not be paying attention to. So forget about the haters. If they happen, it's even a good sign. That means that you are an object of interest, which is always good for a personal brand. And something really good that happens with this is that the moment that you have haters commenting on you, they give you the perfect opportunity for you to go on and expand on your philosophy. What do you really mean? How do you really stand for this? It's the perfect opportunity, because otherwise we all feel awkward about grabbing the camera and just ranting about nobody prompted me. Like nobody asked me, and I'm here ranting against the camera. That's why we love podcasts and interviews, because at least somebody asked me so I can rant and have a context and a reason to do it. So having haters is the same. You have all these comments telling you like, you're wrong because of this. And you go like, wait, let me explain. And then you go on practicing how do you respond to the most challenging people, the more skeptical ones. And man, if you can turn around a skeptical person, then the ones who originally believed in you, those are piece of cake. So it's very, very good to have a polarizing message. It's super, super important. And one of the ways to detect what is your polarizing message is to identify the things that normally frustrate you. Like what fires you up about your industry, about your context. The one things that after a long day of work and dealing with all of these things, you come back home and you meet your partner and you rant about it. He said, this is wrong. Things these people are doing this wrong. They are just not understanding how things work. All of these are normally your polarizing messages, and just recognize them and use them on your favor. People want to know, and there's many people thinking the same as you. So it's a gift for everybody when you can recognize your polarizing message.
I was reflecting the other day as well. I think it might have even been yesterday. I was just thinking to myself, man, as soon as I get my first comment, that like hate comment on this podcast in YouTube or whatever, I'm going to celebrate.
That's the attitude.
Because that's the sign that like, okay, people are listening, people are like having an opinion about something, it's triggered something in them. I'm like, yeah, that's a great step to just celebrate from, really. So I'll celebrate with you. I'll give you a call when that happens.
And look, something I used to enjoy before when I had the previous personal brand and we were running ads, and that's so funny, also very interesting as well for the audience to know, real experience. I used to have my community with 30-something followers on Instagram, and I would be publishing content all the time. I kid you not, I would get like less than 1% comments would be haters, less than 1%. It would be rare. That's for organic content. Conversely, anytime I did ads, oh my God, man, people would jump on it with like the knife right here. It would be all haters. So it's there's a high contrast. It made me think a lot. And then when I started to receive all these hater comments on the ads, I would always use them as an exercise to flip people around and to act from a point of no ego. Like, let's see, how can I not take this personal and understand where is the other person coming from? Like, it's so sad that somebody is so full of hate that they even have the time to go and hate on you, especially when you're trying to give something good and you know it from the bottom of your heart, and they still see like something that they should go and fight. It only inspired me compassion. I mean, it would always make me angry also sometimes, But I would always try to flip it around. It's like, all right, let's enter into a mood of compassion and let's see how can I turn this person around. And very often they would turn around. Very often. It was a beautiful exercise to master your message, because if you can flip those around, like you really know it, and also hone your emotional resilience, in those situations. So yeah, I love haters. They're the best.
We've talked about a lot about branding, but I know you personally, and I want to hear more about your, you got into, say, for example, handstands. What a niche thing. And you've done classes on this. You've taught me, and I see you're a really wonderful teacher when it comes to this. You've got this patience, this presence. You understand different people's unique, say, body makeup or mental belief systems and stuff. And you have this you have this patience to just go with everyone. That's one thing I've noticed about you. You're a great teacher, but I also wanted to just find a little bit more about what it took for you to get there, I know from my own experience of the things that I've gotten good at is that it takes hours and hours and years of diligent practice and falling down and just making mistakes constantly to get to this certain place. And then you realize I'm still just beginning and I've got this much more mastery to go. And it's in fact infinite.
It's a combination of skill that you can hone with all of these years of practice and really putting an intention, right? There's an intentional development of all of these qualities and an intentional willingness to display them and make use of them. That is true. And that takes practice and it can be perfected or developed over time. But at the core, I believe that if you ask me how long it took me to be that, I would tell you I was born like this. And it's not because I want to praise myself on it. Like, I'm terrible at many things, but I believe that we all have been born with one quality that it's very unique to us. And it's very interesting because it's the one thing that we appreciate the least about ourselves because it's so natural to ourselves that we believe everybody else is the same. Everybody has it. Like, why doesn't everybody have the ability to be patient, teaching someone how to do something and break down what is it that they need and feed exactly those gaps with the information that they need to actually get to do it? So that is my particular talent. I was born with the capacity to read situations in this way, or I was developed at an early stage, right? I never had to force it. I never had to put an effort to it. It just came natural. It's been in my life across all these years. Like, when I was a teenager and friends would break up with a girlfriend and they would come up for me for help, I was not the best at giving emotional support. I have a feeling that you probably were so much better at this than me. I was able to make them understand the situation from a logical standpoint or make them see the possibilities. So what I realized is that, and coming back to personal branding, right, is that a very important question in personal branding or in business in general is, what are you selling? And I have understood that I don't sell personal brand. What I sell is clarity. That's the one thing I sell. That's the one thing I've been selling all my life. And in the beginning, I did it for free. And sometimes I charge for it. And sometimes I still do it for free. But clarity is the one thing that I always bring to the table. Whether if I'm doing yoga or I'm DJing or I'm coaching or consulting, whatever it is, my ability is what you have just described very beautifully. And it comes naturally. That's the one thing I was born with. Now, what is very interesting about this, that I inspire the audience to figure out what it is that makes you so unique, is because the moment you find it and you put it at the center of whatever you do, everything flows so much easily. Because that's the one thing that to you is effortless. You don't have to think twice about it. It doesn't take you any effort. You don't get tired of it. You just can't help doing it. It's just your nature. You could not do it even if you tried, because that's who you are. And at the same time, is the one thing that everyone around you appreciates the more about you. So it's the one thing that they would be much more likely to pay you for, that one unique quality that to you is the easiest to make. So it's the biggest leverage that you can pull to make your life easy and your business successful or your personal brand recognized. It's like, get to discover what is this thing, this diamond that you were born with, and just put it at the center and orchestrate everything around it. It's so magical when you found it, and I inspire everyone to do it. It makes everything so much easier.
Yeah, and the biggest challenge I've found myself from reflecting on this, those things that we find supernatural and easy, we somehow have this bizarre way of thinking, oh, it's easy for me, therefore it's easy for everyone else, therefore it has no value. And actually, it's the complete opposite. That is the thing that makes you magic. That is the thing that no one else has. In fact, if you talk to most people, they'll actually be so baffled that you are able to do this thing. And they're like, how on earth do you do that? That's why I love this. There's no comparison. There is no comparison between any single human being. I often remember this story of like so music is very, as we've shared, is a very deep part of me. This is one of those things that you just shared. This is one of those things, no matter what you did, I could not take this out of me. It's there, like, no matter how hard I try. But back in the day, I remember playing a couple of shows once, and there were a couple of people that would come up and be like, oh, that was so good. Like, I wish I could do what you did. I would love to be able to do what you did. And I would just say to them, what do you do? And they'd say something like, well, I'm a carpenter. I make furniture and stuff. And then I would love to be able, I genuinely would love to be able to do what you do. There is no comparison, just because there's this stage presence thing of it's like an illusion that just because you're on a stage, you're somehow better than someone else. It's like, no, I'm no good at this 3D work. It absolutely fascinates me. I'm in awe of people that create these beautiful things. And so I wish I could do that. There is
Totally
no
agree.
comparison.
I totally agree. Is it this old saying that you cannot be anything, but you can be everything that you already are? So you cannot be everything else. Stop looking out there for things to be. It's like you can already be all of the things that you already are. You just need to figure out what is it. And then you have access to this marvelous temple of beautiful things that also it will be so easy for you to do. What else can you wish for? So true.
I love going down rabbit holes, and I love exploring places where I don't quite know the answer to yet. But for example, I really hear you on what you're talking about. There is an essence of us that is, say, let's just use the term superpower. We have our uniqueness, and if we can find what that is, it's a real fine essence to what that is, and it's often not what we expect. It could just be this ability to be in peace, this ability to light up situations around. But when we put all these labels on top of it and miss the actual essence of what it is. And the reason I mention that is because, so for example, music. I've been playing guitar for over 25 years. Now, I always kind of thought, oh, I'm a natural at playing music. I just pick things up, I can play many instruments, and I can just do it. And then one day I started to actually think, I mean, how natural was it? Because before I could play, I couldn't actually play. And then I really reflected on how many hours I put into learning that. And so how much of it was actually my natural ability and how much of it was just this fire within that just was so passionate about learning this music that I put ungodly amounts of hours. I mean, I would just play and strum and practice and make mistakes all day long for 8 hours a day, and then do it the next day and do it the next day. And I realized, if it was so natural, would it have taken me that long every single day, all of those hours? So which part of it's natural and which part of it is just this pure love and passion that I know this has got to be a part of my life? But then if I take away this label of musician, maybe the essence of that is actually, there's a resilience, a persistence.
Yeah, I totally feel you. There's a skill involved, a skill development, definitely, because even if you are born with that talent, you will know many people who have a talent and they are born with it, but they are not making anything out of it. So knowing what it is allows you to practice it even more and eventually turn it into something that you can make useful and put at the service of others. So it's like you're born with a piece of wood, but you need to turn it into a tool, right? So the tool lives inside this piece of wood, but the practice will make it into a useful tool that you can actually use in service of others. And that does require hours of practice or whatever. And I can think of myself when I was speaking about clarity, like every conversation that I had in my life, when I was like intentionally not letting myself go by choosing an easier way of having this conversation, where would have been like, yeah, whatever, or getting emotionally involved in it, in a like triggered or whatever. Like there was something in me that said like, no, keep calm. There's a solution to this. There's a puzzle to be resolved here. And yeah, I had this inner drive to do it, but I had to put the effort and the energy into making it. And eventually that skill evolves. So the thing is when I say that it doesn't require effort, I don't mean that it's free, that it doesn't require an energy disposal. What I mean is that it's not, it doesn't require fight. Like it's an effort that flows very naturally. And when effort is poured into something in a natural, frictionless way, you rather get energized than emptied of this energy. So you want to find the things in which you can pour all of your energy and effort, but that actually give you more than you put in. And I think finding this unique quality, that's what gives you. It doesn't come free. You have to develop it, but you're born with the gift of the opportunity. And that's already a lot.
Is there anything else that you would like to share around the work you do? Anything else?
One of the things that I really believe in, that's my particular polarizing message, or one of them, is that I believe we are at the verge of a change of trend. It's obvious with AI right now, but even before that, I think we were already tapping into it. And this is the fact that information right now is present everywhere, which means that people are not paying for the access of information. We are not, we don't need that. It's everywhere. You can go to YouTube and get any sort of knowledge that you want. Everything lives in there. So I believe we are entering into an age of curation of information. There's gonna be so much, especially with AI generated content, we're gonna be so overflown by information that the figure of someone who can curate what is worth and what is not, it's going to be very, very important and very relevant. And as part of this, I believe thought leaders will play a significant role in this. Thought leaders will become curators of information. And based on the fact that people have access to all of the information already, we don't need someone to tell us what to do because we already know. The reason we will be really inspired is because someone takes us by the hand and guides us through the process of actually doing it. People are procrastinating a lot. We are becoming lazier and lazier. And the use of technology, sometimes we abuse it, especially with AI. I see people becoming lazier and lazier. It happens to me as well. I can understand it, but we need to be aware of it. That's what people need right now, is the kick in the butt or the taking by the hand and guiding them into getting shit done. That's what people pay for. Not for telling me what I should do, is for helping me get it done for once because I feel incapable of doing it myself. So I really am kind of against this figure of the inspirational speaker who goes on stage and blah, 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 blah. They tell you stories and things which are amazing. And it's great. But you leave the place feeling the same. Like your life next day is exactly the same. And we all know that learning is not the same as really knowing. Like you can learn something. If you don't apply it in 72 hours, this is gone from your mind. I believe the next generation of thought leaders that we need are people who are going to be transformational leaders. People who every interaction they have with you, by the time you leave, you have made a significant step forward in whatever is what you want. That's the reason why I try to never give talks and rather give workshops. If I have enough time in that stage, I will always choose to give a workshop, practical, where people leave the room having already moved the needle in a significant way in the direction they wanted, not just with inspiration, like, when I get home, I'll do this. It's like, no. When you get home, you already have done this because you've done it here, because they kicked you butt until you got it done in 90 minutes. And I think this is much more powerful. I believe this is the reason that people rated my workshop, not talk, #1 at Mindvalley, is because when they left the room, they really had moved the needle. And I inspire everyone who's listening to this and they are thought leaders or personal brands or whatever, make your people work. They will be grateful to you. Like move the needle for them, help them move the needle. Nothing, you will be more grateful and generate more reciprocity than this. Yeah. That's my final thoughts.
And what are the 3 core brand messages?
The 3 core brand messages are, well, the polarizing message we were describing is one of them. So what I have come to realize working with all of these personal brands, creating my own, and that's the problem that most people have, is like they don't know what to say. So experts have a lot in their minds. There's just too much. And they don't know how to categorize it in a way that people can make sense out of what they are listening, because people are not ready to just go and crack open your brain and dig and get everything from the inside. They're just not ready. And many personal brands suffer of being way too complex. They give too much information way too fast. People are not willing or ready to get them. So I broke down a system which is very simplified for the personal brand to always know how to communicate effectively, and for the audience to be always ready to receive that effectively. And that creates a bond. So the system is very simple. You need 3 core brand messages. One message, I call it the vision message, which is to touch them in the heart. Then you need a polarizing message to touch them in the minds. And then you need a lifestyle message, which is to spur them into action. So the vision message connects with your why. If anyone is familiar with Start With Why by Simon Sinek, your why, like the reason that you do what you're doing, what lives at the core of your personal brand, that needs to connect with your audience. So you want to point into a movement. You want to point them into somewhere you're going to take them. This is the things that I believe in. And if they believe in the same things, they will go after you. Then the polarizing message is the one that creates controversy. It separates the wheat from the chaff. It tells you, look, I believe in this and I'm against this thing. This is my methodology. This is where I establish my boundary. People need boundaries to make sense of who you are. If we were boundless, we would be just atoms scattered all over the place. I need to frame you into one particular body and a particular mindset and know your beliefs and know part of knowing what you believe is also knowing what you do not believe in. So creating that polarizing message helps define this boundary around who you are so that people can see you as a unity. It's very important. So the polarizing message. And then the last one what you need is the lifestyle message. The lifestyle message is the one where you show this promised land. It's the aspirational message. It's where you say, look, if you follow my methodologies, or you buy my products, my services, or you just follow what I'm preaching, this is what awaits on the other side. Like, I know what you're suffering right now, and we could go here. And the lifestyle message is more actionable. Normally, it's the one that allows you to give very clear instructions, and it's very contrasted. It's very down to earth. So the vision message is about that vision that lives up there, and it's beautiful, but it's in the future. It seems far away. Lifestyle message is here, today, now. Something you could do exactly right now to move the needle in a significant way and would help improve your life based on the things that I'm preaching, right? So it's the moment to give very actionable steps for people to follow with no excuses. You need to make it simple enough that they have no excuses to execute and therefore get results and therefore be grateful to you, and this connection gets established. And the lifestyle message also is useful to portray case studies. Like, look, I was working with that person. They went from here to here. And then you describe how is the life of a person after the transformation, as opposed to the life before. So before you're suffering for all these reasons and you are stuck and you don't know how to move, or you're having bad relationships or whatever it is, and the day in the life after is that person knows exactly what to do. They have different habits, and you come to describe with all level of detail, those are the habits that this person have afterwards. These are the things that they do different their day. So you can see a very clear picture where you could be the protagonist. You see yourself in that message. You say, like, look, that could be me. I could be the one who, instead of eating that chocolate, eats a banana instead. It's like, damn, it's very simple. I cannot deny to myself. I can take action today. So the lifestyle message spurs action, makes people move, and puts them in motion and in momentum. You want people to catch momentum, because at some point you will want to ask them to buy a product or service from you. And if they don't have enough momentum, they will never do it. They need to be engaged already in that momentum, in that movement that you're leading. They see themselves as part of this journey. Then it comes as natural to me to say, like, oh yeah, of course. Like, buying from you is the next step in that path that I'm already running. So those are the 3 core brand messages. Vision, tell people where we're going all together. Polarizing message, this is where we are not going, and those are the enemies, and we will not let them steal our magic from us. And the lifestyle message, and if we do it, look how beautiful will it look, and that's what you should be doing today. It's that simple. You need only these 3 core brand messages, and if you repeat them to society, people will totally understand who you are, what you are for, and they will be able to decipher why should they follow you. They will know exactly how to talk about you to other people. So if I had to talk about Steve, I should say a bunch of things. I need to be able to say these things. And your job as a personal brand is to make it very easy for me to explain who you are, because then word of mouth will play in your favor. And because brand is what people think about you. Like, what I'm going to say to my friends after this conversation about who is Steve and why should they pay attention, that is your brand. The brand belongs to the people who is talking about you. and the brand is what they are saying about you. So your effort should be focused into, let's see if I can shape what people would say about me after they have met me. And that is the magic of these three core brand messages, that it gives a very clear idea of what to say about you to people who have interacted with you. So it simplifies the whole thing a lot. And that's the core of the workshop that I was describing, is how to come up with these three core brand messages for yourself. And for that, we decipher first who you are inside, then we look at the audience, and then we create the bridge, which are those three core brand messages. It's a very simple framework, and in 90 minutes, you can get it done.
What do you want to experience next in your life?
Oh, that's a very good question. All right. I want to experience more flow. I want to experience more intimate connection with the people that I'm finding my way. Yeah, because I see that things tend to be more superficial every time, more and more. So getting back to this groundness, something I really want to experience is feeling much more grounded and maybe reconnecting with the practices that take me there. And I want to experience the excitement of being involved in projects which are challenging, but rewarding. And that put me at the edge, but I feel that I can do it. Like that excitement is something I really want to feel. It puts you in the sensation of growth and expansion. I wanna experience the gratitude that you feel every time you help someone, and that you really provide value, and you see like in the eyes of the other person the gratitude, like, oh my God, you really are moving the needle for me. What you're saying is really significant. This is priceless. I want so much more of it. And I want to learn a lot. I want to be connected to people who inspire me, who will like blow my mind and make me see different perspectives and learn. And I want to be more present. I think presence is something really important that I really want to experience. Yeah. What do you want to experience? Oh my God, this is such an interesting question.
You know, someone bounced this question back to me as well recently, and it's so funny. It's such a simple thing, but because I've missed out on doing Wing Chun martial arts for several years on a consistent basis, because I've been traveling all around and there's not been any schools or anything like that, I want to experience that. So let me try and put this into words. So I want to experience that again, doing the sessions, but what does that mean? It's being face to face with somebody. It's like you're getting instant feedback, and it actually links with what you're talking about with presence. If you want to learn presence, learn martial arts. if you've got a fist in your face and you're doing all these practices and someone's throwing a fist in your face and you have to block it, you cannot be thinking about your rent. You can't be thinking about your laundry. You can't be thinking about anything else but what's happening right now. So yeah, very linked to what you were just sharing. It's that I guess I want that again. And when you're up against another physical person and your energies are dancing together, it brings me alive. When I step out of those sessions, I feel more present. I feel like I can speak better. I feel more confident. I feel that I can just take on the world more. So I want to experience more of that because of that as well, because of that presence and that confidence.
Yeah, those situations are hard. So after you've done something hard, everything else seems so easy, right? They're challenging. They are kind of dangerous to a certain extent, and yeah, they trigger your nervous system. So after you've done this, which is hard, everything else which was hard suddenly looks easy. Yeah, it's true. I used to practice Kung Fu as well when I was younger. So we share this journey, and I love it. There's something very spiritual about it as well, besides the fight. Yeah.
Multifaceted. I love it so much. How do you want to grow personally, professionally, or both?
They always come together, right? Especially when it comes to developing my personal brand, which is the goal, like keep on growing it. Personal brand is so intimately connected with personal growth. So I know I need to keep on growing personally, and that will reflect into a personal brand. But in terms of something more down to earth, this year, I think it's going to be the year that I focus a lot into being much more present publicly. So getting speaking engagements, giving many more workshops, and presenting myself in front of people much more often, exposing myself and my ideas to other people, always with the best intention to serve and to communicate the best I can, and with the humbleness to also listen to the feedback and correct or fix whatever is wrong about it. But yeah, I think this is the year where I need to be very, very present, very public, like make an effort to not be hiding under the rug, as is a tendency of mine as well, and become like a hermit. Like this is the year to be much more exposed and probably putting much more content out there and growing in that sense, growing in visibility, I would say. Yeah.
What's the impact or contribution you most hope to make in this world?
That's a good one. So one of the things that I see is that the internet brought many beautiful things to our lives, and social media as well. But I also suffer a lot from this constant distraction and the pollution. There's a pollution. I love to call it infoxication. There's just too much information out there. I feel intoxicated by so much information. So this infoxication epidemic that exists, I think it doesn't really play in our favor. As I was saying before, now with AI, we're going to be overflown with even more. And the FOMO that is generated with it, like just another episode that I missed, the shit like this, it's like, those are not good feelings. So the way that I want to contribute is that at least if I could help people become personal brands that bring honest content out there, not just for the sake of being, but that every little piece of thing which is published is really meaningful and it's really useful. And it's not made just to captivate attention, just for the sake of captivating attention and leaving you with nothing in return. I would love to see a world which is more like that, where personal brands are more honest and real and devoted to real service. And I want to be like this myself. I want to inspire my clients to be this way. And hopefully we flip, even if it's slightly, things around. And we have an internet which is less polluted and more, I don't know, more healthy, more healthy.
Well, thank you for your service, Vic. And I see you bring light and playfulness and joy in all the places and situations that you're in. So keep on doing that. I see it. I love it. I can't wait to see you again in person. And how can people find you?
How can people find me? They can find me in all major social platforms. I'm on LinkedIn, Vic Moya. They just need to find my name, Vic Moya, on LinkedIn. On Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, they will find me by Who is Vic Moya. That's the handler. Who is Vic Moya? They will find me there, and I keep on posting videos talking about all the topics we've been talking here in a very friendly format, so that people can get like one nugget of content that will hit their minds, and hopefully is a good reminder on how to keep on developing the personal brands, gaining clarity, actionable steps. Easy. Yeah. So just hit me up in social media, please. If you are seeing this episode and you like it and you have anything to connect, don't hesitate to text me. I receive very little messages, so I will not be overwhelmed. Believe me, people tend to think like, I will text him because he will not even see it. Like, I do see all the messages and respond them all. And I am eager to establish this connection and this conversation. So please do text me if there's anything you want to say. Yeah.
Send him some hate mail. He'll love it.
Oh, we will have a wrestle there. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciated this. Such a fun conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Steve. Beautiful to be in that space and always to connect with you. I loved it. It was super fun. And yeah, we will have more of this. Thank you so much.